What if the next major global conflict isn't in the West, but right here, in the jungles, shipping lanes, and cities of Southeast Asia? This region, often overlooked in global headlines, is now the front line of a massive geopolitical play. At the center, China. With its expanding economy, rising military power, and deep pockets, China is drawing bold red lines across Southeast Asia. But this isn't just a power grab, it's a calculated, layered strategy that blends soft influence with hard muscle. Today, we're diving deep into how China is quietly reshaping the political, economic, and digital future of Southeast Asia, and why the rest of the world should be paying attention. Number 1. The region that matters. Think Southeast Asia is just a tropical getaway. Think again. With over 675 million people across 11 vibrant nations, from the tech-savvy youth of Vietnam to the bustling markets of Indonesia, this region is a powerhouse in the making. It's not just about beaches and street food. Southeast Asia is rich in natural resources, buzzing with digital innovation, and loaded with untapped economic potential. But here's the real game changer: geography. This region isn't just stuck between India and China by accident. It sits at the heart of the Indo-Pacific, linking the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. That makes it one of the most strategically important areas on Earth. And let's not forget the South China Sea, a maritime superhighway where over $3 trillion in trade flows every year. Whoever holds sway here doesn't just control trade routes, they can reshape global power dynamics. And China knows this. For Beijing, Southeast Asia isn't just another neighborhood. It's a launchpad for influence, a testing ground for diplomacy, and a buffer zone to keep rival powers like the US and India at bay. The region offers access to key shipping lanes, rare earth minerals, agricultural lands, and increasingly, digital infrastructure. So when China invests in bridges, ports, and 5G networks here, it's not just being generous, it's making strategic moves on the global chessboard. Southeast Asia isn't begging for attention, it's commanding it. The world's biggest players are competing for its loyalty, its markets, and its strategic real estate. And at the center of it all, a rapidly evolving region that just might hold the key to the future of 21st century power politics. Number 2. The economic Silk Rope. Beijing's most visible tool of influence is economic, poured into the region through massive infrastructure projects and trade deals. Under the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, China has funded highways in Laos, rail networks in Thailand, and deepwater ports in Cambodia and Malaysia. These projects aren't just about connectivity, they're strategic footholds. China's state-owned companies have sunk billions into real estate in Singapore, mining in Indonesia, and agriculture in Myanmar. The goal? Secure resources, create debt dependencies, and open new markets for Chinese exports. What looks like development is often a long-term investment in control. Once the projects are built, the leverage begins. Number 3. Political leverage. Behind closed doors. Economic influence bleeds quickly into political sway. Countries like Cambodia and Laos have become increasingly aligned with China on the world stage. These governments, flooded with Chinese cash, rarely criticize Beijing's internal policies, even on sensitive issues like the treatment of Uyghur Muslims or the status of Hong Kong. It's a subtle yet effective form of diplomacy. China doesn't need to install puppet governments. It just needs to build relationships where its priorities are respected and its rivals are kept out. Even democratic countries in the region face a dilemma. Speak out against China and risk investment, or stay silent and enjoy the benefits. For many, the choice is made behind closed doors, away from public scrutiny. Number 4. The South China Sea standoff. Nowhere is the tension more visible than in the South China Sea. China claims nearly all of it, based on a vague historical map, despite international rulings rejecting those claims. To enforce its dominance, China has built artificial islands and militarized them with airstrips, missile systems, and radar stations. These aren't just for show, they're meant to challenge any foreign navy, especially the US that tries to patrol these waters. The Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia all have overlapping claims in these waters, but challenging China directly is risky, both economically and militarily. That's why many turn to international alliances for backup, creating a growing contest between US-led coalitions and China's sphere of influence. Number 5. Debt, dependency, and doubts. On the surface, China's investments in Southeast Asia look like a golden opportunity. Gleaming highways, new rail lines, modern bridges, and sprawling ports. But behind the shine lies a growing anxiety. What happens when the bill comes due? China's strategy often involves offering huge loans to countries with limited access to international credit. These nations, eager for development and desperate to modernize, accept the deals, often without fully grasping the long-term cost. The problem? These loans aren't always easy to repay. Take Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. While it's not in Southeast Asia, the story echoes loudly across the region. Sri Lanka couldn't meet its loan obligations, and in 2017, it was forced to lease the port to a Chinese company for 99 years. That move sent shockwaves throughout Southeast Asia. Many began to wonder, could Laos, Cambodia, or even Myanmar be next? The fear of falling into a debt trap has become very real. China insists its intentions are purely economic, but critics argue that financial pressure can turn into political leverage. If a country defaults, what's stopping Beijing from demanding strategic concessions, like military access or control over key infrastructure? Governments are now treading more carefully. Leaders are asking tougher questions. Is this truly a partnership or a cleverly disguised power play? Does this investment lead to prosperity or dependency? Public sentiment is also shifting. In countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, citizens are voicing concerns about sovereignty and transparency. People want growth, but not at the cost of losing control over their land and future. In the end, what China calls development aid, others are starting to see as diplomacy with strings attached. The question remains, is the region building bridges or laying the foundation for long-term dependence? Number 6. Digital influence. Control in the cloud. Beyond ports and roads, China is pushing into the digital space, and this might be the most dangerous frontier of all. Huawei and ZTE are building 5G infrastructure across the region. Chinese tech firms are partnering on digital payment platforms, surveillance systems, and cloud data centers. At first glance, this looks like modernization, but critics warn of data security risks, surveillance exports, and potential backdoors for Chinese intelligence. With digital infrastructure, China doesn't need a military base. It can shape information flows, influence political discourse, and monitor populations, all remotely. This is soft power wrapped in code, and it's spreading fast. Number 7. Cultural and historical connections. When people talk about China's rise in Southeast Asia, the focus is usually on warships or billion-dollar infrastructure. But beneath the radar, there's a quieter force at work, one that travels not through ports and pipelines, but through hearts and history. China and Southeast Asia have been linked for centuries, through spice routes, silk trade, and shared stories. Walk through any major city in the region, and you'll find vibrant Chinatowns, ancestral temples, and generations of ethnic Chinese who have helped shape local economies and politics, especially in Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. Today, China is tapping into this deep-rooted legacy with smart, soft power tactics. Think scholarships for Southeast Asian students, Mandarin language centers popping up across universities, Confucius institutes offering cultural programs, and even TV dramas that subtly promote Chinese values. It's all part of Beijing's long game, winning minds without firing a shot. This cultural diplomacy isn't loud or flashy, but it works. While naval drills may trigger alarms, dumplings and dragon dances open doors. For many young Southeast Asians, China isn't just a powerful neighbor. It's an opportunity, a future, even a friend. And that's exactly how China likes it. Number 8. Regional resistance and the counterweight. But not everyone is bending to Beijing's will. Vietnam remains deeply skeptical of Chinese intentions, especially with a long history of conflict. Indonesia is taking a stronger stand on maritime boundaries. The Philippines, after flip-flopping for years, is now re-strengthening its ties with the United States. And it's not just local resistance. External players like Japan, Australia, and India are all boosting economic and military engagement in the region. The U.S. has revitalized partnerships through the Quad Alliance and AUKUS, aiming to counterbalance China's influence without sparking direct conflict. In response, Southeast Asian nations are becoming masters of strategic balancing, accepting Chinese investment while deepening military ties with its rivals. Number 9. ASEAN's tightrope. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, finds itself walking a diplomatic tightrope, with China expanding its influence through massive investments, military presence in the South China Sea, and digital infrastructure. ASEAN members are under increasing pressure to choose sides, yet many prefer not to. ASEAN prides itself on centrality, a concept where the region maintains its own independent path without being dominated by any major power. But in reality, maintaining that independence is becoming harder. China's economic offerings are tempting, especially for developing nations that need infrastructure and trade. At the same time, growing military assertiveness from China makes countries like Vietnam and the Philippines uneasy. The United States, Japan, and even India are stepping in to offer alternatives. But ASEAN's priority remains stability, peace, and economic growth. This means many member states are hedging their bets, cooperating with China economically while engaging with the US on security matters. ASEAN doesn't want to provoke conflict, but it also doesn't want to become a pawn. The challenge lies in staying neutral when the region is the very battlefield of global rivalry. This balancing act defines ASEAN's current strategy and its future. Number 10. The endgame. Who really wins? So, what does China truly want? Control over sea lanes? Access to markets? Political support on the global stage? Digital supremacy? And a buffer zone between itself and Western influence? But will it get all of that? Not easily. Southeast Asia is not a monolith. It's a complex, diverse set of nations with different histories, interests, and strategies. Some will lean toward Beijing, others will resist. Most will do both, depending on the issue. The real story isn't about China taking over Southeast Asia. It's about whether these nations can chart their own path, without becoming pawns in a game between giants. In this unfolding chessboard, every port built, every fiber optic cable laid, and every handshake made at a summit tells a story. China is ambitious. Southeast Asia is crucial. And the world is watching. As the region rises, so do the stakes. Will it become a zone of cooperation or confrontation? Will China's strategy build allies or breed resentment? If this video gave you a new perspective on Southeast Asia and China's global game plan, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on global power shifts, geopolitics, and stories that mainstream news skips, make sure you subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. This is just the beginning. There's a whole world of untold stories out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.